Welcome to the Contact Center Gurus, the podcast for contact center and customer experience leaders. Learn best practices, new technology, tips and tricks, and more. Listen in.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Contact Center Gurus podcast. I'm your host, Darren Prine. Today's topic is the analytics advantage, why the right QA solution defines your CX success. Today's guest has spent over 35 years in contact centers, watching AI promises fall flat until he decided to fix the problem himself. Jim Iyoob wears two hats: president of ETS Labs, where his team builds AI that actually works, and chief customer officer at Etech, where he oversees operations handling over 1 billion customer interactions annually. The real-world operational experience is exactly what makes ETS Labs different. Jim's breakthrough? QEval, an AI platform that does what the industry has been promising for years: 100% call coverage and real-time coaching that deploys in days, not months. His philosophy is simple: if it doesn't measurably improve customer experience, it doesn't leave the lab. He's co-authored 5 books, speaks at major industry events, but most importantly, his stuff actually works. Welcome, Jim Iyoob. Jim, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Darren. I'm so excited to be with you because it's good that we've known each other for, 2 decades, and we've seen these things together. And you know my passion has been always how to do things better. And that's really what we're here to talk about today. I'm excited for sure. And so good to see you again.
Well, great to see you. I've enjoyed our long relationship, and always great to glean some knowledge and experience from you. So I think this is going to be a great podcast for the viewers, and everyone's going to walk away learning something. So with that said, why don't I kick off things with our very first question to kind of keep us on track. So QA has often been seen as a cost center. How can the right analytics solution turn into a driver of revenue and customer loyalty?
Yeah, it's a great question. So think about it. For decades, even in our world, we know that QA has always been cost. And we know this because you and I have been in sales for parts of our lives. What's the first thing that goes? QA.
Yeah.
Where's the money go? Sales. So these companies sell stuff and they put all their money into sales, but they forget the end customer. See, QA doesn't have to be a cost center if you look at it correctly. Mm-hmm. The transformation actually happens when did the agent follow the process to what I believe in, which is what behaviors are actually driving outcomes. Mm-hmm. See, modern analytics can't correlate specific patterns in these conversations with business results. They weren't possible in the old days of checking boxes. Mm-hmm. And I say that because QA is traditionally a score. In one of the 5 books I published, I actually have a quote in there. QA is not a score. It's a behavior. And when you understand that, that's how you fix behavior problems. And when you do that, several case studies, but one I'll talk about. We improved conversion rate by 2.3%. They were losing $12,000 a month because they were focused on, did the agent sound professional? Did they use their name throughout the stuff that doesn't matter? Yeah. The magic happens when you correlate all that data. That's where the magic happens. And so the key learning for this, the shift have to goes from measuring adherence to predicting outcomes. Because if you can predict the outcome of what's going to happen based on the behavior, that's when QA becomes a general rule of thought: cost to profit, lower AHT, increased conversion, better customer experience, and more one-call resolutions, which we all talk about in the call center as well. Hope that answers your question.
Yes, excellent. Well done, sir. So what are some of the most common blind spots you see in traditional QA programs, and how can analytics help uncover and solve them?
Let's think about this flawed system we've lived for the decades of our lives. I started my career as an agent, and I remember.
Too.
Yeah. They used to listen to what? 3-4 calls a month from us.
Mm-hmm.
So you're basically telling me that you're going to score me on 1% of what I did. You and I as executives, think about it this way. We all have a bad day. I've had a bad day. Mm-hmm. Imagine if our bosses took that one day, basically said you're terrible. Mm-hmm. And that's really what happens. The system is so flawed that when you find 3 agents making the same mistake in that little random sample, you pull everybody through training. Mm-hmm. I remember back in the days, they would listen to a call and the customer would say, everybody needs to be pulled off for training. That's not true. Because if you build your QA solution like we have, I can take 1,000 agents, for sake of argument, and tell you specifically behaviors, which ones need to be pulled off. Because I remember when I was an agent, and I was the top salesperson back in the day. Mm-hmm. And I remember they would come in and say, you need to go to sales training. I'm like, what are you kidding me? Yeah. And then the other things you could think about is in customer service, we talk about returns, mm-hmm. right? So I have a major retailer, and they were using traditional QA, lots of negative sentiment. It was about returns, geographic locations, and they started beating up all their agents. Well, look, it really wasn't the agents, because if you take the data down farther, most of the issues we saw from the pattern was able to reduce 37% of that sentiment in geographic locations because it was specific people, not everybody. Mm-hmm. The other blind spot I look at is correlation versus cause. So when you think about agents, we're following troubleshooting, for an example. Mm-hmm. They read the script perfectly. Great QA scores. However, when you dig down into the data, it showed the troubleshooting scripts were so long, mm-hmm. and the customer was just saying, yes, 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 yes. So, but you didn't fix the problem. Mm-hmm. We actually redid the script. And when we redid the script, their actual issues dropped. And the reason they did it is because the agents were following a broken process already. Fix the process, and that's going to improve the experience. Those mm-hmm. are the blind spots people miss. Hopefully that helped.
Yeah, that's kind of root cause analytics, predictive analytics earlier on you mentioned, and then root cause analytics. Fix that problem, and you no longer have those people calling in agents or repurposed for better interactions.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So next, how does predictive coaching change the game for contact centers compared to traditional performance reviews?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm going to bring in one of my past that you might not be aware of.
All right.
But when I was a senior in high school, I was in a sales class, by the way. Uh-huh. 99 Q1, 99 Q2, 99 Q3. So I did the math and said, well, crap, if I don't show up my Q4, because it was my last day of last class in the senior year. Uh-huh. In the Q4, I didn't go to class. I only went to class 13 days just to take my test. I failed. The principal, the teacher, gave me a 13 on my report card, which took my average down to failing. So that's how I look at how you got to change it. When you think about this report card, you get it at the end of the semester.
Yeah.
Well, it's too late. I just supposed to graduate. Now I just got my report card. She said I failed. Yeah. She was going to force me to go to summer school, by the way, but we'll talk about that another day. I beat her. But predictive coaching is like having a coach who knows exactly what you're about to struggle with mm-hmm. and give you these concepts before you fail. Like if the teacher told me, if you don't come to class, I'm going to fail you. I gotta be honest, I would have went to class. I was
you thought you were going to get away with it. Yeah,
I did. So when I look at these type of things, when you can show an agent an interaction from yesterday at 2 p.m., let's say, right? Instead of just saying, hey, listen to this call 2 weeks ago. I have a hard enough time remembering what I had for dinner last night, let alone a call that was 3 weeks ago. And I think that's one of the things. So, one of the clients that we worked with, I think they saved about $50,000 in monthly coaching, right? And all they did, it wasn't by doing more coaching. It was by doing coaching in the moment. Hey, look at this call from 20 minutes ago. Here's exactly what you missed. Listen to this buying signal. It's worth 10 generic coaching sessions.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I could even see taking a group of interactions that you have the analytics around to kind of prove your point to the agent, and based on that, you're able to change their behaviors and their approach and solve for that versus just
100%.
like you said, grading them later as fail. So when it comes to improving customer experience, where do you see the biggest wins from using analytics-driven QA?
Well, it's a great question. I think the biggest win comes from understanding root cause, like we talk about, not just correlation. It requires a deeper analytic capability that goes beyond traditional QA. We call it, I think it's this, intent at level 4. So most of these QA solutions give you what we call surface level data. Hey, 72% of your customers were frustrated. So what? Now what? You really need to identify, was it a billing inquiry? Okay, good, billing inquiry. It's great. Was it a payment arrangement? Was it a financial hardship? Was it a medical emergency? What is after that first, as the old days, dispositions? So what our customer journey mapping module does is it reveals the complete picture. We track every interaction across every median, which would tell me you started on social media, or you started on the phone, you went to social media, you came back to the phone. So by putting that all together, it allows you to get instant data that normally would take weeks to compile into instantly, because QEval automatically will correlate the data with what they said to the actual phone call. So if I did a survey as an example, and the agent got blasted on a survey, at a click of a button, I can tie that call to the survey, to the journey, and that's really what's happening differently. We just see the biggest wins, because nobody's ever looked at it really in depth. It's always been surface level. And I remember one of these tech companies that was trying to sell me says, but if I tell you 74% of your customers are frustrated, you should be able to go fix it. And I said to him, but if my people knew how to fix it, I wouldn't need the software, because I already know the issue. I'm trying to get to the root cause, which, you give me surface level. I want to get to the meat. And then he says, well, they should know this. Well, yeah, they should, but let's be honest. We've all been in the call center. How many people have we promoted out of a need because we're growing and they weren't really had the tools to be successful? I'll be the first one to raise my hand there.
Absolutely.
So that's one of the things I see. And I think the last thing I would tell you on that one, I like to look at it as connecting all the dots. So you take the dots from the conversations, regardless where they are, to the outcomes. And then when you have that entire journey, it actually drives the improvement. And most agents, if you go to them and say, to your point, hey, I listened to 100 interactions. These are the top 2 things we need to work on, and here's why. It's different than saying, hey, Darren, I just listened to your call. It was terrible. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, ultimately, one gives the agent direction in where they need to improve. And I could definitely see how, a bad review, how being able to tie that into the call, then being able to look at the entire journey across social and other channels kind of gives you a complete picture that you can utilize, then coach that agent to help them improve.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Probably some of this also can be utilized, with your tool or other types of solutions where, ultimately the agent from the results is able to coach themselves and improve their own performance without somebody pointing a finger telling them where they
So
need to improve, right?
that's a great one, because what we've just released 3 months ago is self-coaching. So literally the system will send the agent, because I know the managers and supervisors are supposed to coach, but let's be honest, some of them take off or whatever. So what we've done is we've actually put a module together that listens to hundreds of interactions. It drops it to the agent desktop and say, hey, here's a coaching module, usually 45 seconds to a minute and a half, micro learning on the behavior that we just saw in 100 calls that might not have been up to par.
Yeah. That's brilliant. I almost think for various reasons that maybe even opportunities to coach themselves without being in trouble for anything. If it's a supervisor or a manager, there was a problem with this. Let's look at your behaviors and let's look at how we can fix them. They're, as you presented it, they have the opportunity to learn, coach themselves, and make the shift. That's probably more meaningful.
Yeah, so it's about 70%, or actually, because we're tracking it, believe it or not, it's about 70% of the workforce will self-coach.
Yeah.
I said this decades ago. I believe 95% of the people that get a job with us want to keep their job.
Yeah.
You always have that 5%.
Yeah.
And we also know that the coaches not always coach effectively.
Right.
So give them all tools to be able to become successful.
That's another part. So on one hand, I love what you just said. On that 30%, I guess maybe those are the people we need to think about letting go and replacing. But other than that, not everyone that is, a lot of times someone's doing really well in the role, let's promote you to supervisor. But it doesn't mean they know how to coach people and manage people. So a tool that actually helps them, I could see it for everyone, but especially someone new to that role, how it can actually coach them to coach agents in ways that they never could have figured out on their own.
Oh, remember the old days? We ran call centers, you and I. Remember? Yeah. This guy's a top seller. He'd be a great leader.
Yeah.
Not necessarily.
Yeah. Some of the best salespeople make some of the worst managers. I found
Absolutely.
that. So if a CX leader is considering upgrading their QA approach, what are the top 3 outcomes they should expect from an advanced solution?
So one of the pet peeves I have in the industry, the number one thing you should expect is customized to my KPIs. I don't like when a software company comes to me and it's all boilerplate stuff. It's not really what I want. So I'm really about specific KPIs, coaching methodologies. Like Etech uses direct feedback model. I want to use that. So I want to be able to make my coaching methodology whatever I want. I think second, what you're going to be seeing in the industry is this whole thing about predictive performance, because predictive performance improvement, it's 40% faster than any traditional method, which is what we just talked about. If I could give coaching to the agent quicker, better, faster, while my coach is coaching somebody else, that's what I'm going to be looking for. You have to identify your top performers. What are they doing specifically in behaviors? Now, how do I take the rest of the organization by behaviors and say, what can he learn from this? And this is where I go into what you think is nuts, seating charts. We all know that in the call center, if I have a guy struggling on this behavior and I put the guy who's doing it great, by default, he's going to be hearing the guy next to him all day long.
Yeah.
That is going to make that guy even better.
Absolutely.
The third thing I would tell you is ROI. Typically, nobody's been able to identify this yet for me when they tried to sell me. We're going to give you an ROI. Well, define it for me.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, you're going to improve your customer experience. I can't put a price on that.
Yeah.
Right? Because everybody says they want to improve customer experience, but nobody wants to spend any money.
Right.
So I look at it like this. What I've seen in our deployments, we've seen 300% ROIs within 6 months. One of my clients saved $2.9 million in 6 months. And we were able to find egregious agents, because they were listening to 3 calls, by the way, per week. right? We found egregious mistakes with agents, like really upsetting customers. It's not just about replicating your top performer. It's also looking for the outliers that are actually hurting your brand and your money. And I think the last thing I would tell you, which is really where Etech shines and our technology shines, security. I love these new people coming to me and says, we've integrated with ChatGPT, we've built all this. First of all, it's not secure. And I'm not training anybody else's model.
Yeah.
Because if I built these algorithms, and by the way, we did LLMs, we built them, but what we've done is we built them in a secure environment. I'm never sharing your data with anybody.
Yeah.
It is staying housed behind our firewall. It's never touching ChatGPT, OpenAI, or any of the other 50 other platforms that are out there. Security is important because every day you wake up, we see breaches. I don't want your data being out there, and I definitely don't want your customers' data being out there.
Yeah.
And I think security, people say, yeah, it's secure, but they're really not. You really need to do a full assessment of the security and what those techs are using and where your data is residing. I think that's probably the top ones I would say that you should be looking at.
Yeah. So there's particular categories of solutions where if a salesman for one of those companies, if they just quote a price without running through the whole value and ROI in detail, they're doing themselves a disservice. Because if you look at, let's say something is $100 a license, if you're able to show that it's $100 a license, but based on all of these different areas, it's going to reduce costs by whatever percent. Well, now it's not $100. Maybe it's $20 or $30. But then there's parts that are hard to calculate. The other improvements, which if we look at everything as a whole, the system's paying for itself. And
Yes.
with QA solutions, or let's talk about QEval, how do you share with somebody? How are you able to describe it? How the system actually isn't really a cost. In some cases, it's a savings. How it pays for itself. How do you kind of walk through that with somebody?
Yeah, it's a great question. So what we like to do is I don't like to do the traditional demo deck things and what everybody else does. I like to talk to the customer, and I typically start with, let me ask you this. What are the three things that keep you up at night? And usually they say conversion rate, handle time, things that are easy to measure. So then my next step is say, if I can reduce your handle time by X, that's real money, more capacity, less agents. If I improve conversion rate by 1%, what is that worth to you, right? I can prove that. That's easy. And then, if I talk about first call resolution, or those things all are easy to attributable to measure. But then I say, how about 10 other things I can tell you?
Yeah.
Because how I take my data, it gets bucketized into three things. One is people. Okay, you got to fix that. You own this, Mr. Customer.
Yeah.
They're your people. But it will, by fixing this, that will give you X. Second one's going to be processes. You'd be shocked at the number of Fortune 500 companies that have hired us, and we see processes that they said, oh, yeah, we did that about 25 years ago. It's like, never been upgraded? Like, let's look at a different process. And then the third one, which I think you're a genius at this, which I think nobody else is doing, and I've learned from you. The third bucket's technology. So I did a study for a customer. And I said, I did the whole analytics. They paid me to do the analytics. They were thrilled to death with all the money they were going to save. And I even said, but you can save another 1.8 million if you automate these interactions. It's only 30. You have 30% of these call volumes coming in, asking for these silly questions. These should be automated. And the one guy, I told him, I said, you do understand you had 18% of people calling in for a copy of a receipt. Well, you can get it online. Apparently not easy. And then we went to the website and looked, and it was like 13 clicks to get the copy of my receipt. I'm like, no. I said, we have the attention span of a gnat. I said, there's no way am I going to click through that stuff. So they actually changed their website. And by changing their website, their call volume dropped for that particular incident. And then that's the kind of stuff you need to get to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it could open the doors to automating in other ways with AI.
Correct.
Um, yeah, that's brilliant. I love it. And, I think I think it's very likely that there's listeners to this podcast that are going to want to, obviously, there's a lot of QA solutions on the market. Obviously, Cloud Tech Gurus think yours is exceptional because
Thank
we
you.
have you as a supplier and we're able to show demos and showcase it to our clientele. I think there's a lot of folks that are going to want to see Q Eval Pro, kind of compare that to what they've been using and see what the additional benefits might be. So at some point after my marketing expert gets this video, they'll throw in some contact us slides and other stuff
Absolutely.
so that we can help facilitate a meeting with you or your team to showcase QEval Pro and the results and outcomes that clients might expect.
We would love that opportunity, my friend. We have to get together this year in person.
Yes, we'll definitely do that. Obviously, this is a great podcast. I can't wait for us to market it and share it publicly. So, Jim, you've been a great guest, maybe the best I've had, and I appreciate your time today.
I appreciate the partnership, Darren. Thank you so much.